my god, that was so ridiculous.
It's like it never stops getting dumber, but also somehow not dumb.
It's gloriously dumb.
It's pretty awesome.
But what are we going to watch now?
I feel like after that, we need something with a little bit more emotional depth.
Maybe something more serious.
More sophisticated.
Fullmetal Alchemist! Anime Indecision. You want to watch the original?
Well, yeah. It was the first one. It's awesome.
No, man, we gotta watch Brotherhood.
This one has all, like, the charm. This is where we first met them, we get into them. It shows how they get started, which mostly gets skipped in that one.
If by charm you mean it's really clumsy, then yeah, it's not the best executed series.
I don't know. It's more sort of episodic early on, but those episodes are how we sort of learn who the brothers are and what they're like.
Well, it might be better if you want to learn about the brothers, but this show, it introduces all of the same interesting cast as Brotherhood, but it doesn't have anything to do with most of them.
There are a lot of characters who don't get as much time, that's for sure. I mean, you got a longer series and yours skips a lot of the intro stuff, but I like some of the characters better in this one.
It definitely depends. Like, if you list a character, we could say which show is better.
It's pretty clear.
But I think that overall, Brotherhood makes a much better use of the supporting cast.
So, Fullmetal Alchemist is a series about two young boys who have experienced some pretty horrible tragedy in their life. Their father left, their mother died. So, they had a pretty rational response. They tried to bring their mother back from the dead. The
brothers already had been learning alchemy, which is kind of like this world's magic, because they knew that their missing father was a powerful alchemist. Alchemy is based on scientific theories. You know, you can't make something out of nothing. It's all about equivalent exchange. You have to give something of equal value to get something. And so they decided to use this alchemy to bring their mom back to life.
It didn't work out very well. To the point that the older brother, Edward, lost one arm and one leg, and his younger brother lost his entire body.
Yeah, if you look, this giant metal armor dude, that's actually the younger brother, Ed. And his soul is affixed inside the armor. So the armor is his body, but he doesn't get any of the pleasures of human life. He can't taste yummy food.
He can't feel the touch of another person. He can't taste the foods he likes. He also doesn't age. He's immortal.
Doesn't sleep.
He's extremely strong and fast. He's actually pretty awesome. And of course, Edward gets his missing limbs replaced with automail. They're sort of steampunk engineered replacement limbs.
For someone who lost a limb, he was very lucky that his best friend and childhood quasi-sweetheart is like a limb-making mechanic.
Convenience! It's a really great story, and this series, either one, on the surface, you think, this looks like a kid's show. The protagonists are these little kids, they're running around having adventures, and there is a lot of silly levity that happens, but this is really an adult show. These kids have had to grow up very fast, so while they are still kids, and that's actually kind of handled well in places, it's one of those shows where it hits the whole range of human emotions.
Like, there's themes of loss. There are themes of, like, war and being a soldier and dealing with the kinds of things a soldier has to do.
There is a heavy moral dimension to this show. Like, it really covers everything.
There's a lot of shows where the main character goes on some kind of quest. But when your quest is literally to get your brother a body, like, you instantly understand why they did what they did.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell it was a stupid idea even before the show tells you how stupid it was.
Of course. But, I mean, they were young. They didn't know.
So you don't feel mad at them, because it's not like they were 20 years old and they did this. They were like 6 and 7 or something. And you're really invested. You want them to succeed. Like, I innately don't want someone to be punished for the rest of their life for one stupid thing.
Especially if they made a mistake as a kid.
Yeah.
And you look at this show, and it's really just exploring a lot of these themes.
There are very few people in the series who are unambiguously a bad guy or unambiguously a good guy. It's all about every character's goal and motivation and how far they are willing to get their motivations. And we learn, like, everybody's motivations.
Everyone has reasons for doing what they're doing, and there are a lot of characters, and they still pretty much all get their moment to shine.
More so in Brotherhood.
Well, that's... A lot of the characters have more motivation in Brotherhood, but the homunculi seem to have a lot more story going on, especially for certain ones, in the original series. Lust has a much better story arc.
I think that's very much... without getting into too much detail because it gets into spoiler territory, but homunculi have different methods of creation in the different shows, and I'll admit that the method they have in the old show is much more conducive to the characters having interesting characters.
Yeah. So the reason there are 2 series, they came out with the 2003 series, which was awesome. It has all these emotional notes. It has all this great action, fun characters.
All the same themes, all the same characters.
But when they were making it, the manga artist who made that the show is based off of hadn't finished it yet, and she knew where it was all going in the end, but didn't want to make the same ending for this TV series when she wasn't going to get there for a couple of years in her manga, which is really her work. That's what she's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she created a whole other ending for the series. And effectively, the first half of the 2003 series, most if not all of that stuff, you could think of it as canon even for Brotherhood. That stuff all happens. Some of it is revisited and slightly different, but most of it is just kind of skipped over in Brotherhood.
Brotherhood actually makes references like, remember that time when we did this? But there isn't an episode for it.
Yeah. But when they get to the second half of the series, they change a lot of things, and the way that the homunculi are created, and a lot of the things relating to the Philosopher's Stone, which, no spoiler, is what they're after for most of both series. A lot of the events, the antagonists are different and have different motivations, and everything works differently in the original series.
But I think this is a really good quality of the show, because honestly, a lot of anime, especially when it's a shonen series like Naruto, Bleach, and all these things, the anime series starts way before the manga is finished. So, anime series are often coming up with their own endings, and I think that's why so many series have such weak endings.
Yeah, a lot of them, you go like 3/4 of the way through the series, and you're like, oh, this is awesome, it's building up to something awesome, and then they're just like, and they were all on Earth after all, or the reason behind everything makes no sense, and you're like, why? And then everyone's like, read the manga, because presumably there's something better there than a lot of these series endings.
Which means Brotherhood is your rare chance to see an actual real manga ending in anime. And it's for this reason that Brotherhood has by far the more satisfying ending.
No, Brotherhood, I will say, it ends really strong. I don't know, my first time watching it through, I found that some parts of it almost dragged to me, because in order to achieve this epic ending of theirs, it's like a season and a half of ending. They have to spin out so many threads and get so many balls in motion.
I will agree there was definitely a slower chunk in the middle of the series. Like, it starts out very strong, it ends very strong, and it does get a little weaker in the middle. But it's not like Fullmetal Alchemist is strong from beginning to end either.
No, it has problems mostly with the episodic nature. And yes, I agree that the ending isn't as strong, but it's still valid. Like, because they had the author, they came up with a fairly interesting one, and it kind of like, it makes sense on its own. It answers a lot of questions in interesting ways. It just isn't really as satisfying.
And can we also talk about the humor in these shows?
Yeah.
These shows, their comedy depends heavily on coming back to the same thing over and over again.
It's a lot of, if you repeat it enough times, it will become funny.
And it never worked for me in the 2003 series. Like, Ed freaks out anytime someone calls him short, and I swear to God, it took me a few episodes to even figure out what was happening with that, because it wasn't funny and it wasn't making sense. Yeah. And for me, all of the gags that weren't working in the 2003... they were working in Brotherhood. Brotherhood.
Part of that is because you were warmed up by the original series.
It wasn't about the repetition. It was about the timing, and it was about not dragging it on. In scenes where Ed was freaking out about being called short in that show, he would go on and on. It would be like 3 lines of like, who are you calling a pipsqueak? I'm gonna do this. And it was just really big for the slight, and I know that that's where the comedy was supposed to come from, but it just wasn't working. In this one, he was still freaking out about being called short, but I don't know, it didn't seem like he was taking it out of context, and like, sometimes he was able to hold it in, but still be clearly annoyed.
The variety did help.
It was different levels. Here it was all one level.
That particular joke was a little one-dimensional. I don't know, I think overall, though, the 2003 series, it's still got lots of good humor in it. Major Armstrong is still awesome.
Comedy is very, your mileage may vary.
Definitely.
So, I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm saying I personally did not laugh during this show.
Yeah. Who knows, there's probably someone out there who found the panda cat joke funny.
No. Nobody found the panda cat joke funny. But, the whole reason we have the panda cat joke is because the whole world in Brotherhood was really expanded. In Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 one, we didn't get to see a lot of different countries aside from the main country where everything is happening. In Brotherhood, we got to see all of the surrounding countries. We got to see ancient civilizations. And the whole reason the panda cat joke exists is because people in Amestris are not familiar with pandas because pandas come from Ching. So one of the nice things in both series is not just the variety of characters and how interesting they are, but the fact that they very much come from different factions, and you get to see them interacting.
They also change their allegiances as time goes on, because, again, they all have their own objectives, and sometimes people's objectives change, but oftentimes what people need to do to achieve their own objective puts them on different sides of whatever's going on at that moment.
I especially like the homunculi. In both series, they're really standout characters, and in both series they're really interesting because on first blush, like you look at them and you say, that's a villain.
Even before you start seeing that they have crazy, awesome powers, they're just like walking around looking like villains.
Well, Lust sits around talking in femme fatale voice all the time. But even though they're someone you would consider villains, you quickly find out that you can kind of feel for them, the reasons they're doing the things that they're doing. And also, there's a lot of times where the homunculi end up helping out Ed and Al.
Yeah, it creates very interesting sort of dynamic, because you find out pretty quickly the homunculi have zero empathy whatsoever for humanity. But as time goes on, you start to see that they have a lot more going on.
Yeah, they're very fascinating. And then, we also have a love-hate relationship with the military. Half the time, the military are helping Ed and Al, and Lord knows they get a lot of resources from the military. But there's lots of times where the military is stopping them from doing what they want to do, or asking them to do stuff that they in no way want to do.
They have a very complicated relationship, because Edward becomes a state alchemist. It's like the military employs wizards who are given a high rank, a great deal of resources.
A great deal of autonomy, unless the military says, come here.
They have the freedom to pursue their own research, to go where they need to most of the time, but they still can be ordered. You have to go here and stop them.
You have to go here and kill them.
And that's the price they pay for all these resources that they've got.
And that's where we get back to the fact that the show does a nice job of remembering that the boys are young. Because Ed isn't just a state alchemist, he is the youngest ever state alchemist.
Probably by a fair margin.
And there's a lot of kind of moral quandary about like, okay, but now you're a soldier. Like, if we tell you to go kill people, you have to go kill people.
Which the boys are incredibly strongly against. When we say this show is, like, has dark morality at times, and there are a lot of hard choices and stuff, the two boys, for whatever flaws they may have, they are 100% committed to the fact that they don't kill people.
They do a very good job of making the boys genuinely kind, caring people.
Yeah.
They're on this very important quest, but they will stop to help people. They will put back their own quest if it means not hurting someone or avoiding killing. And they do this without feeling like one note. Like, they never feel like, I'm just the good guy.
Yeah, and they both really care about each other, and they both feel a lot of guilt over what happened with their mother and what happened to each other during that incident. Even Al, he's the one who lost his whole body. He still feels guilty for the part he played in that. I think one of the major flaws with Brotherhood, while it is generally a complete series and it is very good, it still pretty much assumes that you've seen the other one or read the manga.
It does have problems sometimes where certain characters, it expects you to really care about what happens to them in this show, but in this show they didn't get a lot to do.
You might feel like you're missing something.
Yeah, so I definitely think that to really fully enjoy Brotherhood, you do have to have seen the 2003 version.
Maybe that's what we should do then. Let's just watch them both.
Yeah! 2003 first.
Right off.
Anime Indecision. Oh my god, that was so ridiculous. You were not ready at all.
No.
You good?
Yep. Oh, I don't have to wear glasses.
You.
I didn't realize there was like extra glare.
Pikachu the Chopper.
Yeah.
That time he officially looks angry. Like, that time he's just going psycho on you.
I'm headed with this shit!
Seriously, best like $30 I've spent in my life.